trying to sleep with the info, but it's just hard to do so. You rocking with your boy TheCzarr, all rights reserved, coming to you with a matinee release. Now, I want to impose something to get my critical thinkers thinking, and everyone else who may be sublime to the fact of what's going on in this TxxTentacion investigation. Now, I have a quick question. What if, in hindsight, we think about it, and I want you to think critically with me. Shout to CommenterNation. Hit that like button. Hit that like button. Imagine if the money, let's say the money in the car was the target, but let's say there was money involved to influence it from the start. You see, our perception of the case is that when we look at what's going on, that there was money in the car and that's what they were going for. And people were like, how did they know that? What if that was placed there as a distraction? And when I say that, I mean, we think they were going for the money in the car, but in actuality, they were already paid to do what they were going to do anyway. So it would go back to what one commenter said when he put out there and said, listen, you know, these guys, and I'm trying to think of exactly how to word it so it puts it into a perspective. Let's say that the money in the car was there, and say it was known, but say it was irrelevant. It was irrelevant because I already had money for even accepting the opportunity to do what was given to me. So I'm obviously going because I'm already paid money in some way. So I'm looking forward to doing this anyway, but the money in the car is just a plus. It's just incentive. That's the good word. Incentive for me to go through and do what I'm doing. Not that I knew it was there, but it was incentive for me to have it anyway. So my goal was the person all along, but that would give strong influence and ideology behind motives that influence him to get the money, because getting that money would mask the true intention of getting to him. If you understand, if that makes any sense, what if that was the case versus what we think? Well, if you think about it that way, that changes the whole dynamic of the situation. That means the questions change. It's no longer asking how did they know the money was there. Not even how did they know he was going to be there. The question is, why then? And how did they know to act then? That then becomes the question. You got to think of it very strategically. Thinking strategic and thinking in a very intimate way takes away the fact of distractions. Listen, we ask questions that are critical, but we want to ask questions that are critical to the situation, not defeating the purpose of what answers truly need to be answered. And that's where I feel the investigators fit in strongly. That's where I feel they're most vital. Because if they were going to be placed in any situation, the situation would have been most vital for them to defeat the purpose of there being a clear motive or a clear opportunity or ideology, or even finding clarity in witnesses. That could have been easy motive. If these investigators said, okay, we're going to take away the ability to find some type of inkling of truth or reveal some type of mentality of direction for the suspects, not only is it going to confuse everyone around it, but if we take away credibility of the suspects, which is why evidence was later found and not initially, DNA was later asked for and not initially, the confusion will outweigh critical thinking about the details of how it actually went down. That would be a simple way to destroy it, let alone them to say witnesses are going missing, different things are happening. All of this was part of the plan. That's what it seems. And it seems they weeded out the investigators who were actually involved in that scenario, allegedly. This is what I'm being told. And again, I'm just helping to get your minds fueled towards thinking another way. Because again, we're objective. So if I take it that way and I begin thinking about it that specific way, these two investigators being ousted changes the game. But the damage they've done cannot be changed. Them messing with evidence allegedly, that can't be changed. Tampering with certain statements and kind of coaching up other people that may have been in a situation to tell something, but they made sure they didn't say it a certain way because they had direct contact with someone that may be in a position to threaten them. That would have changed the case a certain way. You see, now that we know there were investigators involved, it is just as I told you. Broward County has dropped the ball. And maybe not intentionally, but that's the case. That's the situation. And I guarantee you these investigators are going to keep their mouth closed if they know what's good for them. They're going to keep their mouth closed because to be in a position of authority and go through with these actions, it's very much so a scary thought that you would even take a stance now to try and tell the truth because your credibility shot. And see, this is why whatever mastermind is truly involved behind this is pure genius. I know we're not supposed to give credit to the bad guys or whatever you think's bad or good. You know, that's you guys' opinion. I really have no opinion on bad or good because I don't really see the clarity of the picture. But they are geniuses. Pure genius. Think about it. If you have dirty authority and that gets exposed, who looks worse in the situation? These investigators are worse than the suspects. If you get caught doing something of that nature, you're worse than the suspects because you use the system to do something dirty. Now they have to look back at all your cases and see what you did dirty. You could have set up other African American men. You could have set up other people to do your dirt. Now, this is where the wormhole deepens for these investigators. That's crazy. And I know the mastermind saw this would be the case if they got caught anyway. So they have nothing to fear. Ultimately, I want to say, we may never find the mastermind. We may never. I want to say that because from seeing what is going on around here, from things I claim, whoever, this group is genius. And I don't mean to put it out there like that. I know you guys don't want to think of it. Objectively, remember, objective. They are geniuses. I mean, down to the very foundation of how everything was put together. Just a genius. There's nothing that can clearly link anyone that will come out now, suspect, dirty cop, whoever. You lost your credibility. So to come out and point to someone else, do you know how credible the evidence has to be? To the T of hooking you up to machines to tell the truth. Just a lot of stuff that isn't normal for someone that's caught doing such a crime as covering up evidence or committing murders. You're not put to that level of test. And they're not going to accept that test. So literally you shot your credibility. And he knew you would. That's why he knew if any mistakes happened, he could pass by. This guy or gal's a genius. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I just got to be honest. From an objective, investigative standpoint, because I have no link to authority at all, they are geniuses. No, just think. And if they did this in no time at all, they're even smarter. Because they're moving on the fly. They're not even taking time to plan out what others are going to do. They're assuming what could be, looking at the worst case, And having thought that out before plans were in motion, the process was thought out in motion. This mastermind has nothing to worry about. Because if you had investigators that were covering the tracks, making mistakes, they know that something was tampered. Even if it led back to you, it was tampered. So it doesn't matter. These guys were tampering with evidence. So the evidence is incredible anyway. That was genius. It was a genius move. And I will say this, though. I will say this. That I don't know if these suspects are innocent or guilty, but with the way these investigators got caught, depending on how they were allegedly messing the issue up and whether it was accepted or not, will clarify whether they're accepted to go forward with the evidence that are against these suspects. And me personally, I do not see how that's possible. I don't see how this evidence is going to go forward on these suspects. I don't see how they'll put the picture together, being that it was direct investigative techniques that were flawed in this situation. So this opens up a whole new realm of who's held tangible to be inspected for such evidence. Who's held accountable for this mistake? It can't be anybody else but these investigators that made the choices they made. So this is very, very, it's crazy. Shout to Al Capone, Premium, Cigarillos, everybody else who's a business mind, business activity, business thoughts. I'm really impressed. In a sad way, I'm impressed, guys. But we got more coming up. You know how I rock. All rights reserved.